Hello, my name is Erica Evan. I'm the Outreach Advocate to Teachers House. We are a certified domestic violence shelter in Clayton County that serves not only Clayton but the surrounding areas as well. We service men, women with kids, and women who are fleeing a domestic violence situation by offering them free services in order to get them back on their feet from self-sufficient from an abusive relationship. We offer many free services from our 24-hour crisis hotline to legal advocacy to crisis management, case management. We also offer child advocacy, volunteer training, as well as a 21-bed emergency shelter. Stay safe. So, with that said, a lot of people understand that domestic violence is very underreported, and basically it's any kind of power control between an intimate partner. Not necessarily a husband and wife, but it can be toxic friendships. It can also be family relationships like siblings. It can also be people who are just dating or are in an intimate partner relationship. So there are different types of domestic violence that do exist. Everybody knows physical, but there's also emotional abuse, verbal abuse, economic abuse, spiritual abuse, and there's also anything that threatens, controls that person to make them feel afraid and isolated. Domestic violence is still considered a very underreported crime. With the pandemic, it did make it hard for victims to receive services that they needed in order to get away from it. When Georgia placed the stay-at-home order, it made victims harder to reach out to us via our crisis line. So as advocates, as myself, we had to come up with creative ways. Some of those creative ways was safety planning by chat, safety planning by a safe email. Basically giving them opportunity to still get the services they need to get out of that relationship safely, but also empower them and educate them about how to do it, even with the abuser around them 24/7. Like I said, when the pandemic hit, crisis calls did go up. Unfortunately, in the state of Georgia, domestic abuse went up by 42%. Crisis centers all over Georgia received over 95,000 crisis calls for victims who were seeking assistance to get out of an abusive relationship. That was in 2020. In 2019, we only received about 28,000 calls. With that said, abusers use that to their advantage. A lot of times they misinform victims of what's going on with the virus by keeping them isolated from family members, making them afraid to even reach out to a shelter because they thought they would become sick, as well as using economic abuse when it came down to stimulus or child tax credit, making that victim feel like they cannot get out of the situation on their own. They also withhold vital things like masks, hand sanitizer, Lysol, whatever kind of thing they felt that victim needed to be empowered and safe. A lot of abuse that. Georgia was, in 2020, Georgia actually was ranked 22 in the state, all states in the United States, as far as women who were murdered by men. Year before that, we were ranked 10. But as we said, these numbers are very low due to the pandemic. So we know that it's highly more people being affected by it than that. Abusers use all unique ways to impact their victims during COVID, but as advocates, our power was to get those victims educated, get them out of those situations safely, and let them know that there are other community partners out there who can also assist and be an ally with us, such as New Life, such as other organizations like DFAC. So they do have safe places to go to seek help and get the assistance that they need and not feel like they're in this all alone by themselves. As advocates, we are here to be that voice for that victim. Victims need that voice. They need it more than ever. And with COVID-19, we cannot let that stifle anybody's voice and make anybody have to suffer in silence. We don't want to see anybody have to go through that. We want them to be able to get out, but we want to make sure they do it safe. So with Secures House and partnering with New Life, we do have that 24-hour crisis line that anyone can call, confidential, anonymous, they can call, just if they just need tips on how to get out of an unsafe. Our goal at the end of the day is to make sure that we are supporting, educating victims and domestic violence so that they can become an ally and not just a bystander. So with the help of our community partners, hope that we will be able to bring victims so they can not only be victims anymore, but become survivors.
This is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. For I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Good morning, family, on this Sunday where we are consciously raising awareness around the issue of domestic violence. We welcome you today into this worship experience. I'm standing here today with this beautiful lady who I know very well, my wife, Miss Nicole Williams, and today we will be leading you together in this worship experience. We ask right where you are in your homes if you would just bow for a moment of prayer as we go to God. Actually, pardon me, join us in our call to worship first, and then we will go into our prayer. We gather now to give thanks to our God,
whose steadfast love endures forever.
We lift up our hearts, our prayers and praise to God,
Whose steadfast love endures forever.
We reflect and ponder the word and wisdom of God. We join together as followers of Jesus Christ.
Steadfast love endures forever.
Let us pray. Steadfast Spirit, breathe into us new life trodden.
hearts when the world
God, violence and heartbreak bearable.
guide us in ways of peace when the violence of heartbreak is unbearable. Refresh
Have created us and called us into your holy work, love in the world. Amen. If you all now
Welcome to New Life Presbyterian Church, where our mission is to bless, multi-generational, and inclusive community, spread love and all God's children through our quest to serve witness, power, evangelism, and leadership. Thank you for working. Have a Therefore, we will reassess reopening the church on a monthly basis due to the rise in COVID cases. New Life family, our in-person regathering has been postponed, but you can still join us online every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Please note that the food pantry will be closed on Tuesday, November 2nd for General Election Day. We are happy to announce the New Life Church Walking Club to take place on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 a.m. in the New Life Church. Fellowship, and fun. We invite you to participate in Reimagine New Life, our 3-phase capital giving campaign, starting September 2021 and concluding December 2022. Please share, count your blessings, and give back freely. We will celebrate Georgia Retired Educators Day on Sunday, November 7th, to honor those who've dedicated their careers to educating others. Sunday, November 14th is Men's Day here at New Life. This year's theme is Keep the Faith, and our guest speaker will be Mr. Orestes Meeks. Please join us. The Presbyterian House is seeking those with K-12 experience in the English language arts, mathematics, reading, and science to serve as tutors for its virtual open tutorial program. The program seeks to promote STEM, build confidence, motivate students, and promote student achievement. For more information, please contact cjjrf@yahoo.com or please call 248-719-0384. Family and friends, please journey with us on a 9-week sermon series entitled Development Comes Before Deliverance, inspired by the work of Dr. Lisa Allen McLaurin and presented by our very own pastor, Hodari Williams, each Sunday at our 10:30 live stream service. We'd love to connect with you, so please like, subscribe, and follow us on our various social media platforms. This concludes this week's announcements. Please enjoy the service.
God be the glory. We thank Elder Marilyn McCray for sharing her gifts with the New Life family.
Amen.
Two powerful selections she has shared with us this day. Today, we are doing something a little bit different. The Bible records that we are overcomers by the testimony. And today we have a very powerful, powerful testimony to be shared with you.
This morning we will hear from a woman by the name of LaVon Morris Grant. She is a survivor. She's an overcomer. She simply put is a miracle. She has turned her pain into passion and purpose, servicing now people here in our state and across the world. And her story is one that we wanted to bring to New Life, bring to the New Life community. It's one we think you'll find inspiring.
We encourage you now to tune in to this powerful interview, and we pray that you will share it with family members and community members, for it is an important topic and issue in our community. Domestic violence, as shown earlier, is not just the violence, physical violence, but also emotional, economic, and many other forms of verbal violence as well. So please tune in now for this powerful interview done by none other than my wife, Lady Nikel Williams.
Good morning to you. It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's a time where our church, we like to do what we can, I should say, go the extra mile to work towards eradicating domestic violence here in our community. As you know, New Life works year-round to do what we can to stop domestic violence. But during this time of the year, we like to go the extra mile, to take it a step further, to raise awareness. As you know, domestic violence remains a serious issue in our community across our country. And they're reporting this year, the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence is reporting that we're about 22nd in the country when it comes to the rate at which men kill women. But we know men are also victims. Last year in 2020, the numbers show we lost more than 130 people in our state due to domestic violence. So that's why we're here today, to have a conversation, to do what we can to continue raising awareness around this issue. And to help us do that today is Miss LaVon Morris Grant. She's an executive director of a nonprofit known as Makash, and she's also a domestic violence survivor. She has a powerful, powerful story that I think you will find inspiring. LaVon, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ms. Nikel. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I am doing so well now that I'm here sitting with you. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
I am so honored and grateful. I always get, a little giddy and excited when the churches, literally, when the churches ask me to come to share not just my testimony, but to share some of the dynamics of domestic violence and what's going on in our communities.
You have a powerful, powerful story. Thank you so much for being here. I am so grateful that you are here. I'm grateful to God that you are here to share your story, to help other survivors to get through, because it's difficult. It's difficult to take that first step. And when I first saw your story, I was brought to tears. I'm gonna let you tell your story. That's why you are here. And I just love that you've turned the pain into passion. You're helping other people do it as well. So tell us about that journey.
That journey, wow, yes, it is a journey. Actually, I think my first book, Whom Shall I Fear? Whom Shall I Fear? Spiritual Journey of a Bad Woman, because it truly has been a journey. Trying to get I'll talk about the bullets in a minute, because people love to hear about the bullets, and I'll give them what they want. But the journey was really getting through the emotional and mental trauma of the journey. That was the most devastating part for me, because no one had any answers of how to do that, and particularly as a Black woman and growing up in the Black community, we didn't talk about these issues. So it was that much more difficult for me as a mom and as a widow, a young widow of 34 years old, trying to raise 3 children, 2 boys and a daughter. So the journey has been a long journey, but the one consistent part of the journey that was the greatest, in spite of how deep and dark it got at times, was that God was always with me. Spirit was always with me on that journey. Even when I didn't want the Spirit to be with me and I was angry with God. But God just never gave up on me, even when I gave up on myself and did not see. What did I tell God? These bones will never live again. Literally, I really believe that I would never amount to anything. Not that I thought I was a lot back then either, but I definitely knew I wasn't going to be anything. I remember telling God, you should just let me die, because I cannot help these 3 kids. I have no skills, I have no understanding, I don't know what it is you are expecting from me. And so I was very angry that God let me live. And so just to give that part of the mental, emotional anguish of the journey, you can only imagine how much work it took to get to a place of healing and confidence and really finding and discovering my purpose. And God was just so faithful through this whole time for me and my 3 children, who are Marquis, Corey, and Sharia. So the journey began in New Jersey, and I was married to my husband for almost 10 years. We had known each other since we were high school kids. We were not sweethearts. We were not high school sweethearts. We were on the track team together. And so as we got older, he was a few years older than me. When I graduated from high school and went on to college, we got together and became boyfriend and girlfriend. And so we've known each other, and wonderful guy, wonderful man. We young people just trying to figure life out, and then we decided to figure it out together, right? We had a child and all that stuff, and we bought our first house at 25 and 26, little poor Black kids, from Jersey City. And we were the first, of our social group, our friends to buy, purchase a home. And that was huge, right? And then we rose to what the paperwork said we were middle class. We became this middle class family and, had more children. And things seemed like they were okay. And back then, no one talked about domestic violence. We didn't use that language, and no one talked about anything emotional or verbal. The biggest thing, right, that people talked about was the physical, but he never hit me, so there was nothing for me to talk about. And I never really heard of anyone talk about physical abuse either in that language. And so, in my mind, we were all judgmental. Like, if he ever hit me, I would do X, Y, Z, and my family, I come from a family where we fight, and I love to fight at that time. And so, had he ever hit me, we probably would have jumped him. My mom, my uncles, brothers, whatever. I have 7 other siblings, and I would have got them to come get him. So, physical abuse was not an issue in the sense of it being a serious issue that we knew in my community, and definitely verbal and emotional abuse wasn't even on the spectrum, even in the coalitions at that time. And so, but we were going to church regularly, we were doing really well, but he just called me all kind of B's behind closed doors. He would say I was stupid. And my comeback, because I'm a girl from the project, so you're just not going to throw your stuff at me. And I'm like, yo, mama, and please excuse me, y'all have to remember, right? Like, your mama's stupid. Because I come from that place for that generation where you play the dozens with someone's mama. Like, those were fighting words. So, and not only were they fighting words, they were your comeback, right, to get even. So for me, I'm thinking, your mama, like, I'm even. Now leave me alone. And she ugly too. So whatever you calling me, I'm going to come back at you with your mama.
Okay.
And then I'm going to throw your sisters in there. And, so, I can sit here and laugh at you today, right now. But when I look back, like, that was really sad, but that was how we lived. We went to church every Sunday. We participated in church events, throughout the week. All that. He was a deacon, I was a deaconess. But yet behind closed doors, this is what was happening. But again, financially, we were in our late 20s by now. So we making well over $100,000 in the early 90s. That's a lot of money back then. So I'm not thinking there's a problem that I need to go get some help. I'm thinking I'm just not happy. Like I'm saying, we take 2 vacations a year. We got 2 cars, we got this beautiful home, I got furs and jewelry, I got stuff. Why am I not happy? And I could not figure it out, and I never really told anybody that my husband was calling me out of my name. My friends would be like, girl, please, we'll take you. Because if the life that we showed to people, it looked like the most glamorous, loving life you ever wanted to see. And I carried that part. I walked that part and wore that mask to make sure that's what you saw. But again, in all honesty, I really didn't know there was a problem. So I just want people who are hearing the sound of my voice really understand I did not think there was a problem. I thought sticks and stones may break my bones, but names would never hurt me. But they did. After so many times and so many years of that, I think by the time I was turning 30, I was like, you still doing this? Like, I just got tired of the back and forth. How many times did I say to Mom, I love my mother-in-law? I really did. But it just got to be old and tired, and I would stop talking to my husband like, hey, we got to do something different. Can we go to counseling? Can we do this? And his answer was, you don't have time, different things like that. But as time went on, by the time I turned about 33, I had the 3 children by then, Marquise, Corey, and Shirley. And I was absolutely miserable. Just mentally and emotionally miserable and depressed. And had no one to really talk to about what was going on with me. I didn't know there was a word out there. I didn't know there was resources out there. And my husband kept threatening to kill me. I was like, what is wrong with you? I haven't done anything to you because again, when you come from a place where you're fighting physically in your community a lot, with your neighbors or kids you grew up with, you always felt like you had to do something for it to become physical. So when he would threaten to kill me, I would just brush it off and be like, Herb, go have to see somewhere. I'm not going to entertain this. And that's just how nonchalant I was about it. When I thought back about, wow, when we talk about the signs, right? There was so many signs in hell. But again, in my community back then, nobody talked about domestic violence the way we have domestic violence awareness now. We didn't have that. And even if we did, I probably would not have really paid much attention to it because I never believed the threat either. I never believed he would really do what he said he would do because I didn't do anything to him to make him want to do something like that to me. And so, yeah. Whew. So just to give people a backdrop of what our family life looked like, because in my 25 years of this work, and particularly talking with Black women, they are my greatest inspiration, but they are my biggest defense mechanism of pushback. And I understand why, because we've been taught to be strong Black women, and we have to show strength even in our most vulnerable weaknesses. And so I have to help Black women get beyond the defense mechanisms that if that happened to me, he would never do this. No, it can happen to any one of us at any given time. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how many cars you drive. I don't care what big house you have. It's happening. I don't care what church you go to, who your pastor is. is happening. And so I really want people to understand that part before I get to the bullets, because the bullets, everybody can get to that piece. But I really want people to look at their lives, right? To see the signs when our hair is falling out, when you're full of stress, because he may be calling you out your name all day, every day. And so stress is going to show up. And for Black women, a lot of times it shows up in our hair, with our hair coming out, or it shows up in miscarriages. And the doctors tell us there's nothing physically wrong with us carrying babies, but we have the highest rates of miscarriages. And people never relate the way you're being treated by your intimate partner can be causing a lot of these toxins in your body, right, to react. And that's what's happening. And also, one of the reasons why Black women, of course the country, and particularly in Georgia, are the largest group of Black women being killed. We're not the largest group being abused, white women are, but we are the largest group of women being killed by our intimate partners. And they say maybe because we stay longer, because we fight back. And I'm not saying right now that that's good or bad, because we don't have enough time for that. I'm just giving some analysis of why that's happening. And we really need to look at that and have conversation. But for me, Nicole, the journey started September 7th, 1996. And I don't want people to get caught up in the year, because it's been 25 years. What I want people to understand is that what happened to me is still happening today in 2021. So the year is not important. In September 7th, I came from upstate New York to go back to my home in New Jersey, which is, I left my husband with everything. I had fallen into poverty. I was under the poverty line after I left my husband. But I chose not to go back. A lot of women go back on average 7 times. I never went back, which is rare, very rare. But I had sent my children back to live with my husband because I had fallen into poverty, and I felt like the kids didn't need to live like this. And he never, like I said, he was never physically abusive to me or the children. So I didn't see a danger in the children being at their home, being back where there was support, for them, financial and otherwise, because all my family is there, right? That I would suffer, or I would carry the burden to figure out how I'm going to get through this process of getting my children back, finding a decent place for us to live, things like that. So on September 7th, it was a Saturday. My mom and my sister come upstate New York to get me because I lost my vehicle. We let my vehicle get repossessed when he went to work for anyone, thinking I was going to bring me back. But anyway, so my mom and sister had to come up to get me. And they drove me down to the house. So I drove down to the house. And I went straight to the house. He was at work. He came home with my oldest son, told him I was there. And I just told him I'm staying for a few days because back home, up north, school starts in September after Labor Day. So I was like, I'm going to get the kids ready for school. I'll be here from Saturday to Tuesday. I'll get them ready for school Monday and Tuesday, and then I'll leave, go back home, and when I get off from work again, I'll be back down. So I'll be coming back and forth. And he's going back, but he didn't ask me if we could do that. I'm like, this is my house too, I'm not asking. So I had an attitude because I'm like, you got everything, like you're kidding me. And the next day, which was a Sunday, September 8th, I get up early. I'm preparing for us to go to church. And I was like, okay, I gotta meet my daughter's hair. She was 4 at the time. So I got up, washed her hair. I was gonna cornrow her hair, but my husband started wanting to have this family meeting. I was like, no, we're not gonna do that. But he just kept coming. And I was like, you know what? Change your plans. I'm gonna slap some ponytails in her hair, and we're gonna get out the house early. We're gonna go up to my apartment in New York, and I'll finish getting ready for church then, because we went to a non-traditional type church that started at 3 in the afternoon. But his church, the church we all used to go to, started at 11. So I'm like, well, he's gonna be at the house in a minute. But I'm gonna be out of here by the time he comes back. And the guy, I'm noticing, like, he's not leaving. Like, he's not getting dressed with his suit and stuff. He comes downstairs, and I see he still has on his jeans, And it's almost 10 o'clock, and the reason why I know it's about 10 o'clock, at that time, the Bobby Jones special used to come on, the gospel special used to come on. I'm like, why is he still here? And so I was like, okay, let me go upstairs to find a rest for my daughter so we can get out here. I walked past him up the stairs. My 3 children are downstairs. And he follows me up to the bedroom. And once again, he asks me for a family meeting. And once again, I tell him, no, I'm not doing that. So I'm standing at the dresser facing this way, and he's standing on the side of me, maybe 3 feet apart. And he says one more time about a family meeting, and I'm like, her, please, just leave it. Next thing I know, look how he says to me, are you going to talk to me now? I was like, what's he talking about? So I'm facing this way. I turn to look to my left, and there's a .22 caliber gun pointed at my left temple, and he pulled the trigger. He just pulled the trigger. There was no wait time. There was no threatening, I'm going to shoot you. No holding me hostage. He pulled the trigger. The saving grace outside of God being God, I had somehow in that short period of time, I had turned my head to say her no, but before I got the no out, he pulled the trigger. And the first bullet caught me behind my left ear, in the back of my head. I was 33 in power, and I'm standing 33 and 34, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm dying. So I felt myself dying, and I felt everything slow down. I mean, it slowed down to a slowness that I never would ever recognize again. And I could feel the bullet moving through my head, and I could feel the blackness, which is what, in my book, I named it the blackness of death. Because as the bullet was moving, I felt death moving too. And I was so aware of everything that was happening. I was like, oh my God, I'm dying. And I was like, I haven't done anything, and I'm dying. I'm only 34 years old, I'm dying. Next thing I know, I sense, or I could see in that thing, I don't know how that happened, but I think I was transported to what I call the spiritual realm. I have nothing to measure it by, right? Because who can you ask that of? But that's what I'm calling it now. I'm looking forward, but I can see in the back of my head, my spirit and God are having a conversation in the back of my head, and I can see them. And my spirit said to God, please do not take us yet. And I'm still like, take us. But I got time to analyze. But I heard my spirit say to God, please do not take us yet. They're like right above me in the back. I can see all this, and I can hear it, plain as day. And next thing I know, the bullet is moving, death is moving, I'm almost dead, at least I feel like I am. I describe it as like a bolt of light, then struck the top of my head because it jolted me. It jolted my body to the side. And when I came back up, life was back. Like the bullet had stopped, the blackness had stopped, and I did what I knew how to do best in my younger days, run. As I don't know where my husband was, I don't even see him. I run past him because the door is past him. But before I could get out the bedroom, I didn't feel this when he shot me in my thigh. But I don't feel that bullet. I don't feel no more bullets, only the one in my head. I get to the bedroom door. As soon as I got out the bedroom door to the stairs, I feel what I called a ping in my butt, but it was another bullet. And I literally dove out of my slippers down the flight of stairs. Now, what was amazing about that for me, in my journey and in my survival, I felt as I'm going down the stairs screaming, I felt this cushion covering my head all the way down to my ankle. Just like, what is that? But it covered my whole body except my feet. And I'm holding my head, believing I'm going to die any minute because, you know, TV says you have a bullet in your head, you should be dead. But my children are downstairs looking up, witnessing all this. And I'm screaming, Marquise, Carter should be waiting for me. Mommy's coming, mommy's coming. And my only thing was, I'm going to die, but I gotta get these kids. I gotta get these kids out of the house. And I knew how to run track real well, and I knew how to swim real well. So I'm kicking off the collar back of my feet, and I'm swimming with the one arm, pushing me down the stairs with my feet. And he shoots me again. He shoots me in my left foot, which broke my foot. But I don't feel that bullet. Also, I don't feel none of the bullets. I get down to the bottom of the stairs. All three of my children are there. I crawled into the living room. Thank goodness, because he shot at the door. The bullet would have caught me in my back. But again, the Spirit was directing my every move. I was just doing it. And when I crawled into the living room, I grabbed my children to me, and never lost consciousness, and was like, we gotta go. Now, the door is right there, but we run through the living room, the kitchen, to get to, the living room, dining room, and then the kitchen, to get to the back door. And my daughter is 14. And we run in, busted into my neighbor's house across the street, and I'm screaming, hurry, shot me, please put the kids in the basement so I can go lay on the kitchen floor to die. They in a panic, like maybe 10, 15, and they put the kids in the basement. I crawled literally into her kitchen, and they kept saying, Miss LaVon, please lay down, please lay down. And I was like, no, I don't want my blood to mess up your rug. I put down new tile floors in the kitchen. And I'm like, it's easy to clean the blood up. I don't know why I'm thinking like this, but I am just so conscious and aware. And I say to my friend, I was like, call my mom, this is her number. Call his sister, this is her number. And I said, I'm going to go lay down on the floor, I'm going to die now. But please take care of my kids. Please just take care of my kids. Keep them in the basement. Please don't let them see me. I was caught up in my hair. But when I leave, it feels like we are not done.
I've just been shot. How many times now?
I've been shot 4 times, but you probably know the one in my head. But feels like, no, you're not dying. The heat from her kitchen, because I think she was cooking her Sunday dinner, the cow was so tired and so uncomfortable. My head felt like 2 tons of fun. The sweat from my face was rolling to my eyes. It was burning my eyes. I was like, I'm tired. So the paramedics get there, and they checking me out, and that's when I discovered the other bullets that I had been shot. At least 2 times. They saw the one in my foot, and they saw there was a trickle of blood on my leg gown. But when they flipped me over onto the gurney, that's when they saw I had actually 2 bullet holes in my leg, but it was only 1 bullet. I think from when I was running, probably the meat got caught together and it just went through. But it's only 1 bullet there. And got me to the hospital, and then during that time, my husband at some point shot himself once in the right temple. So they rushed us both to University Hospital, which was the Charlotte Hospital in Newark, New Jersey. And because I'm conscious, I am his, I am the one they have to come to for all his care. I have to make all the decisions because I'm conscious, and I'm still his wife. And so his nurse comes to tell me that he shattered his brain and that he had 8 to 48 hours to live. Okay? Right? They handcuff him. There's that yellow tape. Even though he's not conscious or anything, it was really like a scene out of a TV movie. With the police officers mulling around, they wouldn't let Philly go in to see him, but my bullets, the one in my head, the one in my butt, because that one went into my stomach, so all those organs, and then the one in my thigh, because the femur bone there. So the one in my stomach, I had to have surgery. The one in my head is still there. It went from one side of my head to the other. So the doctors couldn't understand how it didn't sever my vocal cords, into my spinal cord, and just plain like kidney, period. Shatter my brain. They couldn't understand that. So they chose the neurologist chose to leave the bone. It was safer to leave it in my head, and they left the one in my foot. The one in my thigh came out a week later on its own. It just worked itself up to the surface. But it was the one in the stomach. I was like, God, no. And I always make a joke about thank God for Black police, but because I know it's saved my life. I know it must have did something. Because when they went in to get the when they opened me up, they had to do what they call exploratory surgery. And the free going to the free girl. But every I cried because that just never happened to me, and I was supposed to be like, yeah, this is great, life is good, but it wasn't. It wasn't good. Life wasn't good. I was traumatized. And I felt guilty if I showed the trauma. I cried. I was like, oh my God, I can't. And I was like, you should just let me die. I don't know what to do. There's no playbook of how to raise 3 kids and myself through
have to want to kill.
which I still am, and God used that. My husband, and particularly in the church, the people in the church stopped speaking to me, which is awful. Inside the church, everybody loved my husband because he went along and got along. I questioned. And so he was the more likable person of the two. And so I made this Black man, kill himself. I made him do. I'm just like, really? My voice around that way. Power, because that's for him. If I had that much power, why didn't I have the power to make him change, which is what I wanted? I wanted my marriage. I wanted to be married. I wanted my husband. I wanted him to be alive. Even if we did not stay together, I never would have wanted him dead. And definitely. The church stopped blaming me, the community blamed me, his family stopped speaking to me. They don't even really know my children. My daughter, who was 4, she's 29 now. They don't even know her. And so, yeah, it just was a lot of other pieces. And how I got into this work, I just kept asking God, how did this happen? And he connected me to the Domestic Violence Organization. And that's when I said, okay, God.
So we're getting into your mental recovery, your spiritual recovery.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. And
yes.
So I'm really interested in that part of the story because it's just an incredible story. You know, you're such an overcomer. So we want to hear that part of the story and all the great work that you're now doing through your organization.
Wow. So I'm not going to take that through a long, drawn out. But God, in those early years, and I'm not saying God still is orchestrated, because God is always orchestrating, but in those earlier years, like, I could see how God was orchestrating everything I was moving to, even in the midst of my depression and hell. I was so totally depressed. I was so down in the black hole. I remember one day saying to God, wow, God was down there talking to me in the black hole. And I'm like, God, what you doing down here with me? and God just said, even the mushrooms grow in the dark. That was so powerful for me. So through that, whatever part of the journey my life was on, because even as I was getting into the work, my depression was coming with me. Like, it wasn't like I wasn't depressed. When I was writing my books, I wrote my books in total depression. I was still able to do things, but I recognized how depressed I was also. So depression shows up for people in different ways. And so, yeah, so through the whole spectrum of those early years of my children being young and trying to figure this thing out and being a young widow and where my purpose was. So what God helped me understand was that my purpose was bigger than domestic violence or what happened to me. My purpose was about healing, helping women, particularly women and families, find their way towards healing. I had did a lot of traditional therapy also, and I did a lot of non-traditional therapies. So I was using every positive measure that God was showing in my life that of learning unlearned behaviors. I had to unlearn a lot of unhealthy behaviors. But that doesn't mean it was my fault of what happened to me. It just meant that for me as LaVon to be able to be all of whatever God was calling me to be and to help my children through this journey so that they would not fall into another kind of traumatic experience, I had to unlearn a lot of cultural, unhealthy behaviors that, it's not to say we bad people, it's just to say they just wasn't healthy for us. And so I did a lot of reading, I did a lot of studying the Bible, I did a lot of talks with God, I did a lot of, like I said, therapy. My kids were in therapy. I was real clear, we going to therapy. My family was like, why y'all in therapy? You don't need therapy. You do. So I had to be strong enough to go against the culture of my family, right? I had to be strong enough to say to my mom, I'm not feeding my children anymore. And that takes a lot when you come from a family of matriarchs to have to go against the culture of your family, and particularly the matriarch in your family. And I said to my family, you all can say whatever you want about me, y'all have to talk to me no more if you don't want to, but it was me and my children who went through this. And whatever me and her was doing all the years, it wasn't working apparently, because look where it got us. So I have to change the way I parent my children. And my children, we can talk to each other. They can ask me why, which was a taboo, right? So I had to unlearn all those kinds of things and show my children a different way and be a different kind of parent. And in order to do that, I had to get healed really quickly and learn some ways. And then I got connected to the state domestic violence coalitions, and people wanted me to start speaking. I'm like, really? And I started speaking, and then I realized I could do it on my own, and I started my own little speaking production, getting paid. And then I discovered I was a gifted writer. I never knew I could write. And I wrote my first book. I got it published, and that took me to the national level, and it got me into doors like more churches.
What's the title of the book?
So the first book is called Whom Shall I Fear? A Spiritual Journey of a Battered Woman. So I wrote that in the total midst of my trauma. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a writer. Wow, never knew that. Never knew I had that gift. And so God just kept showing up and covered all these different things of who I was that I never knew who I was before. Never would have thought this would be my journey. That 25 years later, here I sit with you, right? And all the work I've done. Moved to Atlanta after, 2005. I came to Atlanta because my daughter, by this time, is 12, and she's having a really hard time. No matter how much therapy I've taken her to. And I just did not afford to lose another person in my life. My son, my oldest son, when we were living in New York, he had come down here to go to Morehouse. I drove him in 1999 to Atlanta, to Morehouse. I'm like, okay, in the South, you say bye. So he graduated from me. I really no parts of the South. But I knew Morehouse was a good school for him. It was between Morehouse and Hampton University. And I helped him choose Morehouse by telling him, because he was not going to Morehouse, by telling him that right across the street was the sister school, all black women. He was like, Grandma, that. And that's how he chose Morehouse, and he graduated in 2004. And so I did one of the things to help going through that part of the journey, and hopefully other women and families will remember. I stayed consistent, like whatever values and whatever beliefs I had for you before the shooting, my expectations did not change. You are still going to college. I don't care about our circumstances. I don't care how depressed I am. I don't care how much you miss your dad. We'll work through that.
You're going to make something.
Right, so that's not going to be, you're not going to make that an issue.
Yes.
Another issue for why you cannot do. Right. You're not going to make your circumstances the crutch of why life is so hard. Life is hard anyway. And so I never allowed my children or myself to use the shooting and the death of my husband as an excuse for why we could not be productive people, whatever that was going to look like. And so after 3 years after the shooting, my son was at Morehouse College because I did not change my parenting in the sense of what my expectations were. And so at 17 years old, he's 1,000 miles away, he's down here at Morehouse. But by 2005, my daughter, who's 12, the baby, she's just nothing's working for her. And I had to do another drastic investment of giving up my life again, dropping out of graduate school, and I moved to Atlanta, excuse me, to save her. And I want to believe I did it. I don't know all the things that work, all the different ingredients that work. My middle child, he was at Creekside High School. We were very playing football, and he was good. At least he outwardly, he showed he was good. He was into sports, so that was helpful. Sharia, she was not having it, and I tried all different ways of being patient with her, working with her, taking her to more therapy, helping her see that you're getting older, and if you keep doing the things you're doing, you're going to end up in jail. Just constantly working with her. And she got accepted to quite a few colleges, and she ended up at Savannah State University. And I want to say by the middle of her freshman year, she was a totally different person. Her leadership showed up, her confidence showed up, she ended up graduating. She made the dean list a few times. I'm like, what child are you? And she graduated in 2013 or 14, one of the years. And she's doing really well. All three of my children are doing really well. And I'm so proud of that. And I think by them watching me, as I became this international speaker, working with families, working with communities on the dynamics of domestic violence, on the dynamics of mental illness, just talking about those taboo issues that we don't talk about, and how not to be ashamed that it's not your fault, and that there are resources like pointing people to relative resources that can really help them if they are willing, and then starting Makash Healing Network, which Makash stands for the first two letters of my three kids' names. So MA is Marquise, CO is Corey, and SH is Sharia. So it is spelled Makash. So I made it all caps. And because my purpose is about healing, I wanted the word healing in there, so I made it Makash Makash Healing Network, because my network, God let me know that it was going to be far behind of the reach that I would have. And I was just like, wow, okay. And it was to fill the gaps, particularly on the south side of Fulton County, to help the the African American community work through these issues, talk about these issues, get resources for these issues, and get rid of the stigma and shame around a lot of these different issues that we don't talk about in our churches or in our homes.
How long will you have the organization?
So Makash, I incorporated it, because I've always been doing the work, but I finally incorporated it in 2014, November 2014.
So roughly how many people would you say you've helped through their journeys since you started doing this work?
Ooh, wow, that's a hard number. I know it's been well over 600 people in different forms, because I would also go to different organizations to do the work at their organizations with families that were in shelters, or the homeless. The homeless sector, I would go into the homeless sector with those who are looking for jobs and help them understand how to put some things together. And we would do food. We offered a variety of different ways of what you needed.
So tell us how to find Makash if people are watching right now, they want to connect and find out what you have to offer.
So Makash, they can go to www.makash.org, and that's our website, makash.org, and they can click on the various services that they'll see, or they can call us at the number, which is 404-916-3519. And if I got that number wrong, please go to the website and look it up.
You never mentioned your husband's name, and I won't press you to do that. Is that intentional?
I think so. I won't mention it. I think I will mention my husband's name. I call him my husband because it's been so far removed for so long. I still carry his last name, which is Griffin, and I remember at therapy wanting to get rid of the last name. I wanted to just go back to being the Farmer Mars, and I was. But my therapist convinced me to hold on to the name until the kids got older. So there would be no confusion, but by that time, I became LeVar Morris Grant in this process, in this purpose, and that's who I was. And so I began to embrace the whole name of LeVar Morris Grant. But my husband's name was Herbie Grant. And how he got to that place that killing me and killing himself was the answer, I really don't know how he got there. And I do believe in help. I did say the story. Had I died, when he first shot me, like the first bullet was to kill me, I do believe he planned on killing the kids too, in himself. So I do believe on that day, September 8th, his plan was to kill all of us. And, but he had to get me first. But God had a whole nother plan.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for helping me continue to do what I do.
Yes, thank you.
I also have a purpose in this. My mother is a survivor. I survived growing up in a violent relationship, household.
Yes.
And also over time found myself falling into those situations as well as a young woman. But God had a different plan. Tell us some final words for those watching. Someone who may be wondering, should I leave, should I stay, how do I go about doing it? You've been through it, you know all the questions that victims ask of themselves. And there's so much uncertainty about what to do, when to do it, how to do it, or should they do it at all. Some final words you would like to share?
Sure. So what I would say to a woman that finds herself with an abusive partner is you have to make up your mind when you are ready. Don't let other people, no one, and it's not our job to tell you when you should leave. because my telling you to leave can also get you killed. So what I would suggest, if you believe you are being abused, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, verbally, and financially, right? Start seeking out without him knowing. You can call the 1-800 hotline, the domestic violence hotline, or you can call, Makash, you can call the Georgia Coalition, you can just Google all those places, and just begin to inquire, or even look up some stuff online without him being able to check behind you, to educate yourself on what you believe is going on for you, because there's a whole lot more information out there than on the internet than what it was for me back in the 90s. So that's one way. And you can begin to work with an advocate to do a safety plan. So there are 2 types of safety plans. One, if you choose to stay, there's a safety plan, and there's a safety plan if you choose to leave. And without getting into all those particulars, just know that there are 2 safety plans. One if you choose to stay, and one if you choose to leave. And you can make that work for you. Always keep the important papers close, birth certificates, social security cards, driver's license, those type of things. Make copies of them, so if you have to go in a hurry, put them somewhere safe that you can grab them, or have a friend have them, just different things like that that you can begin to do. If you can start saving up bits and pieces of money, because money is, or finance is one of the main reasons why a lot of women stay. So you can begin to, start doing things like that. But whatever you do, stay safe in doing it without letting him know, and you may not be able to tell all your friends what's happening, because they may believe, because he's a good guy, that he deserves to know what you are doing, or you need to give him a chance, so they may talk you out of what you know to be true. And of all things, please know it is not your fault, and you are not alone, and you do not have to carry the shame by yourself. Reach out to your churches if you feel comfortable doing that, to make the call to an agency to help you, and use whatever resources that are at your disposal that you believe that's going to be positive, to help you make that move, or to help you understand what is going on, with you. And you can call Makash. You can reach out to us, and again, go to the website at makash.org and get our information. You can reach out, and we will connect you to those resources and services that you need to follow up with.
Thank you so much for being with us this morning. We really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you all.
And if you're in a violent relationship, just know that you can leave, and there is help. We're going to show you a list of resources in just a moment of organizations which include New Life, also includes Makash, and a host of different other organizations that are out there that can help.
We want to thank you all for tuning in to this important service today.
Such a powerful story. Thank you so much for staying, for listening, from the live or watching. Thank you so much for sharing your testimony with us. Brought to you New Life through our Safe Space Ministry, which is our domestic violence ministry. You saw all the contact information on the screen just a moment ago. Those resources are accessible through our church's website, newlifepresatl.com/safespace.
To those of you who are viewing, this service will be posted in its entirety on our website, and we encourage you to share it with family members and friends as we continue to bring awareness to this important issue. We pray that its testimony has blessed you and has shown to you the power of God through this survivor's story. So today, we ask that God's blessings be upon you And we also today pray a special prayer for those who find themselves in the midst of domestic violence situations and need help and are trying to find an exit way. We lift them up today, and we pray that God will give them the resources they need to make the most important decisions that lay before them. May the peace of Christ go with you. May God's strength continue to be given to you. May you know that you are loved and valued by God, and that your life is vital and important. May you go in peace and know that this day. Amen.
Ephesians 6:18 teaches us to pray in the Spirit at all times in every prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert and always persevere in supplication for all the saints. New Life, let us please remember those on our prayer and sick and shut-in list.
Elder George Lawson, Dr. Sophia Coley, Elder Robert Bryant, Mr. William Lewis, Mr. James Drummond, Mr. Glenn Walton, Miss Amanda Seeley, Mr. Ed Hudson, Mr. Jerry Wade, Mrs. Gloria W. Gleason, Mr. Henley Black, Mrs. Jane Moyer, Mrs. Rhoda Tolbert, and Mrs. Vivian Thurston. Let us please keep in prayer the family of Mr. Robert Mays, who transitioned last Saturday. His funeral will be held on Monday. New Life family, the pastor and session have set a date for our reopening. On January 2nd, 2022, at 10:30 a.m., we will return for in-person worship on first and third Sundays. All other Sundays will be virtual only. Worship services will be limited to 150 congregants, and members will be asked to register prior to attending. We are excited about the opportunity to regather and promise that all safety protocols will be followed.
New Life, please remember to tune in for our online worship services on Sundays at 10:30 a.m. In addition, members are asked to continue supporting the ministry of New Life by giving via our online platforms. You may give through your mobile device by texting #FUN to 470-202-0808. A message will appear prompting you to click the link to complete your giving. You may sign on to our website at www.newlifepressatl.com and click on Give Today. If you'd like to create a giving profile to track your giving, create a profile on the giving page. You can also give via our mobile app. Go to your Apple or Google App Store to select our New Life Church app. Please make sure that your selected app has our church logo on it, as there are many options to choose from. Once downloaded, follow the prompts to set up your profile and select Give to make your donation. You may also mail your donation. Please make your check or money order payable to the New Life Presbyterian Church and mail it to New Life Presbyterian Church, P.O. Box 491-237, Atlanta, Georgia 30349. May God bless and keep you all. Please stay in touch by tuning in to our Sunday online services and noonday Wednesday online devotions. To access our online service, please visit our website at www.newlifepressatl.com. Click on Live Stream, and near the bottom of the blue box, click the Watch Again button. These have been your Sunday morning announcements. Have a blessed and safe week. And New Life, always remember to bless, bloom, become.